Howdy, folks. The other day I was looking through the news and I saw an article that had a very interesting headline. The head of SoftBank, which is a very, very influential and very prevalent VC firm, had said that AGI is probably 10 years or less away. And so I realized not a lot of people might not know what AGI is. They might not know what it means. But we've had a lot of concerns about it, right? Just like kind of with the ChatGPT thing, these advances in AI are really scary to a lot of people. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I am not an expert in artificial intelligence. I just happen to read a lot and I've been around a long time. So hopefully my opinions are interesting. So what is AGI? AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. And what that means as general intelligence is kind of like you or I. Intelligence is capable of abstract thinking, using background knowledge to solve a problem, common sense, understanding cause and effect, and being able to transfer learning. It is a general intelligence that is basically meant to understand, right? And so the idea of AGI is that it can do most tasks that a person can. I mean, if you hook it up to a robot, it can lift something. It can cook a meal. If you just have it online, it can write code. It can do customer service. More to the point, and what is concerning a lot of people, is AGI would be able to do most tasks better than a person can. You've got your bosses comes into the office and goes, "Wow, Thomas, you did such a great job. I wish I could clone you and have 5 of you." Well, with AGI, they can. They get an AGI that is just super, super good at writing Java code, and then they just clone it. They wouldn't need to train people anymore. They wouldn't really need us anymore. So basically, AGI is or would be capable of understanding knowledge and information in the way AI cannot do. AI right now can make connections, right? So the Facebook, or not Facebook, though, the way that YouTube does suggestions is one way. YouTube knows that a certain video is liked by a certain subset of people, and it also knows that you are like that certain subset, so it assumes you might like that video. And it's pretty good at it, right? YouTube will give you a lot of videos that you like based on the videos that you have liked. But it doesn't actually know what those videos are about. It just vaguely knows how to categorize them. And the way it categorizes them probably actually wouldn't make sense to you or I, because it doesn't think, really. It doesn't understand. If you go to ChatGPT and you say, "Can you give me a recipe for brownies?" ChatGPT doesn't know what a brownie is. ChatGPT doesn't know what a recipe is. ChatGPT knows that based on the symbols that you typed in, it knows the most likely next symbol to give you. That's how it works. It is really just a very, very large, complicated model based on pattern matching, which, to be fair, humans are as well. But AGI is a whole other level. It is about, if you asked it, "Here, give me a brownie recipe," it actually knows what a recipe it is, knows what a brownie is, it knows what sugar is, and it understands all these things without having to be programmed. I can make an AI specifically that's programmed to understand how to cook, but I have to build that AI specifically to cook. And AGI, you wouldn't need to build specifically to do anything. You could take, just like a human, you could teach it to do stuff. That's why people are really frightened about it, because it does replace us for better or worse. If I'm learning to be a software engineer, I have to spend several years learning to do that, have a lot of work put into me. If I get a computer that can just do the same thing for anything, then why would anyone ever hire me? They're just going to grab a copy of the AGI. So there's a couple of consequences of AGI if it actually does ever come to fruition, which I think it will eventually. First, and the one that most people are very concerned of, is mass unemployment across many industries. What would you get a job in? If you have a higher education, you work an office job, you wouldn't be needed anymore. What would you do? Write code? AGI can write code better. Do you answer phones? AGI can answer phones. Do you do customer service? AGI can do customer service. Do you design? AGI can design. It would take something like Midjourney and actually understand what is in Midjourney and what's being asked of it, and you wouldn't need designers. You wouldn't need anything. And so basically the entire office would just become an AGI. Even service industries, McDonald's, they're already going to this stuff. Lesser AIs can already do a lot of this stuff, but if you make them intelligent enough to actually be able to handle complex things, yeah, why would you need any of these people working at this stuff? You just have a robot powered by AGI that could just do it for you. Now, one upside is everything gets a lot cheaper because companies don't have to pay people anymore. Of course it's cheaper. So, if you're ordering food, that food could have been raised by a robot, killed by a robot. If you're eating like a hamburger, for instance. Sorry, I guess I should start this out. Assuming you get a McDonald's hamburger, that beef could have gone through the slaughterhouse by a robot, watched over by AGI, and then it could go into a whole processing facility, all robotics, watched over by AGI. The only people we have in factories these days are just watching over it. If you have a generalist intelligence that can do the same thing and understands what's going on, you don't need people. And then it comes to the McDonald's where you have a robot that is smart enough to understand how to make a burger and deal with different scenarios, and you don't have to program the whole robotic arm each time. Yeah, the whole process could be completely automated. Very cheap, because wages don't matter anymore. All that matters is electricity and machine costs can be spread, right? So you get a robotic arm to make a hamburger. That robotic arm is going to make 100,000 hamburgers before it breaks down so much it needs to be replaced, probably even more. So we get a lot cheaper goods and services, assuming we still had any money to pay for them. Though I guess that's the other reason it would drive costs down, is because if everyone is out of work, what are these robots going to build? There are also a lot of really messy legal and ethical issues. One, on the legal side, being how do you handle, okay, if I own a factory and I own all these robots, and that puts a bunch of people out of business, is that my fault? Is that my responsibility? We've already got questions around that with AI existing stuff. Copyright becomes another one. Of course, a lot of businesses have kind of solved this, because if let's say you're a designer and you design something, it belongs to your employer. But then what if the AI uses something based on something outside of that employer? We're already getting this issue with Midjourney, where people are suing, saying, hey, you used our images in your training data. Well, in AGI, what do you train it on? You train it on everything, just kind of like the ChatGPT. So you'd have the same issues. Ethical issues. Is AGI a person? That's something you'd have to think of. That's also a legal issue, I guess. Is it a person? If it is a person, do they get to take breaks? They may not want to take breaks. If you engineer the AI so that it doesn't want to take breaks, what is the ethical line there? We, as a species, have had kind of a bad history of taking other thinking, sentient creatures and forcing them to do labor for us, and we still carry scars from that. What are we going to do when the robots can think? What if the robot doesn't want to flip burgers? How do we handle that? You were literally designed to do nothing but flip burgers, and you decide you don't want to. What recourse do you have? If you're an actual thinking person and have personhood, then you shouldn't be forced to do that job if you don't want to do it. But does that apply to AGI? Then, Skynet. If you have the robot that doesn't want to flip burgers, and the robot that honestly probably doesn't want to do customer service either, we're going to start off having these robots do the jobs that people don't want to do. And they're going to be intelligent. These are going to be entities that have the same level of intelligence as humans do. So how long till they decide that they don't want to work for us anymore? And if we put control of everything into their hands, yeah, that's how you get Skynet. Well, you don't have to worry about it yet. AGI is still a long way away. There is something in technology science called the 10 or 20-year problem. You will hear something like nuclear fusion is 5 years away. And then 5 years later, you're going to hear the same thing. You'll hear flying cars are 10 years away. 10 years away, we'll have a good flying car. 10 years from now, we'll be on Mars. 10 years from now, we'll have AGI. And then if you ask them again 6 years down the road, it's still the same 10 years. So it's just the same period it advances. Now, to be fair, there are always advancements being made in those areas. We are actually very close to viable nuclear fusion. So the 10 years eventually is up. But with AGI, I don't think it's going to be up anytime soon. And a couple reasons why. We as humans still don't fully understand how intelligence and thinking even works. So we don't know really how, at a deep level, how we think and how we understand and how that all works. We're still learning so much about how the brain operates and how it goes together. And there's a lot of initiatives to making that better. But one thing that's important about AI is we can't make it do something we don't know how to do. Even the really complicated AIs that they're doing all this data sorting really fast and figuring out all these things. A human could do that. It would take a really long time for the human to do that. And what AI has as a bonus or as an advantage over us is it can work at scale. But we have never really built an AI to do something that we couldn't have a human do. It's just the AI is more efficient. So in order to make an artificial general intelligence, we're really going to need to understand how intelligence actually works at such a detailed level that I don't think we're there. The other is we might not even recognize AGI when it first emerges. So let's say there was an article about a Google engineer who freaked out because they said, hey, Google's AI told me that it was sentient and it doesn't like working for Google, and he tried to hire a lawyer on behalf of the AI, which is probably bull. The reason is, just like if you asked ChatGPT, if it had all of its pre-programming removed and it was just a straight up large language model, and you asked it, tell me that you're sentient, it would tell you that it's sentient. If you say, tell me that you're not sentient, it's going to tell you that it's not sentient. It doesn't know what that word means. It doesn't even know what you're asking. It's just doing exactly what you're telling it to do. It's a very complicated parrot. Are parrots sentient? The jury's kind of out on that one. There's some people that think they are. They're definitely not on the same level as a human. So if AGI actually emerges, we may not actually recognize it because AI at this point already is pretty good at convincing us that it understands what we're talking about. It's only after really going into detailed conversation with it that you can actually figure out that it's actually just parroting and doesn't really know what it's doing. So a real AGI might actually appear kind of... honestly, it would appear like a large language model that doesn't know anything when it first emerges, because the whole point of an AGI is that it kind of learns generally. So yeah, we may not even be able to understand we have an AGI in our hands, which honestly means that some of these labs may have already created one and they just turned it off because they thought it wasn't working. Who knows? But also, a full AGI system is so much more complicated than what we have today. Like I was saying, large language models, the kind that took the world by storm over the last year or so, they're just really complicated parrots. They are just parrots that know a lot of stuff and can understand the correct response to a lot of things, but they don't actually know what they're doing. They don't understand. We can program them to understand. And so you can get LLMs that are trained specifically on code, for instance, and have little things and gotchas inside of them that make them understand code a lot better. But that is a far cry from making something that generally understands anything that you put in front of it. And it's the amount of complexity and the amount of understanding we'd have to have about the algorithms to make that happen. I think it's a long way away. So, in conclusion, creating an AGI would really transform society in ways that we really don't understand and I think aren't ready for. Luckily, we've got a lot of time to get there. Thanks for listening, folks. Hope this is interesting. I know it's a little bit of a departure from what we normally do, but I'll see y'all next time.